Hello guys, it's Shemetherd, here to do another Beyblade ranking video. This will be the last ranking video where I actually go over an entire line rather than an evolution line, covering the second of the remakes, of course, the Metal Fight Beyblade remakes. So this is actually the smallest line, as there's only 11, compared to every other line I've done. So I guess I'll just go ahead and get into this with number 11. This might be controversial, but I will explain. I know just the sight of this thing at last place might make some people question this, but trust me, I have a good explanation. But anyway, Hell Kerbix. This is one of my favorite Metal Fight bays, for sure. I really like this thing a lot. But man, did they botch the Burst remake of it bad. The layer itself, at first glance, it looks cool. But then you do this. Yeah, no. So they took the track and decided to model the kind of parts that come up to be, you know, part of the layer, which just looks whack to me. I guess the other cool thing is that this is one of the Metal Fight Explosion remakes, meaning that it does have a detachable top piece here with the clear wheel and face, with the metal wheel being kind of a second piece, so that's pretty cool. But outside of that, and the fact that it looks cool from like a top-down view, that's about it. As far as the parts go, I mean, you have, what, zero lift? That doesn't work. I think the disc needed to be paradox, and I know technically paradox doesn't work, but even if it didn't look quite right, does this? At least the gimmick would have been there. And I imagine that by the time Paradox came out, they probably knew that they were inevitably going to cover Hell Kerbix, probably. I don't know why they couldn't have modeled it to be a little bit better suited for it or something, but whatever, I guess. Mobius is a sensible driver, even though, yes, the original does not have free spin like this does. I still understand why they chose it. What I don't understand is why this part's white. This makes no sense. Is it because it's POM that doesn't hold up? We've seen things like Bearing, for example, which also had white POM. With the Wolborg remake, they made it gray to match the rest of the driver. It matched perfectly. Why was this not done here? This was never on the original Hell Kerbix in any form. I don't understand what happened to this thing. This was a very, very poorly executed remake, and again, it's very unfortunate because not only is this my, well, favorite of the base that they did remake, I would say, or at least like first or second, whatever. It's up there, that's all you need to know, but this is one of those popular ones. Like, I would argue this might be the most popular bay from the season it's from. It was also like the, you know, the big hype December release, and they completely botched it, and yeah. I just want to get the rant out of the way before we move on. I won't talk this much about everything else, but for this one, I had to, because yeah, I really don't like it, but I also think, because it's Hell Kerbix, I kind of had to explain, but yeah, anyway. Moving on to number 10. Rock Leone. I have nothing bad to say about this, really, except one small thing, but like, okay, it looks fine. I guess the rock's a bit weirdly shaped, but it's not that big of a deal. And also, I'm not going to mention this for every Beyblade, but this is a Metal Fight remake, not a Metal Fight Explosion remake, meaning that the layer is one piece. They put 2 massive on this thing, or it's 2 massive, right? I'm not, is it 0 massive or 2? Okay, it's 0 massive, my bad. I'm thinking of Earth Eagle. Anyway, it's 2 massive. No, 0 massive. Okay, I can function. 0's a fine choice, and massive's also a fine choice for a driver. Everything here works fine, outside of, I guess, the slightly awkward shape, but there's no frame. Would look better with a frame, in my opinion. Outside of that, this thing is just a remake that exists, and it does its job. That's all I have to say. Not overly interesting, though. Just exists, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm not putting it any higher than this. Number 9, Flame Sagittario. Very similar. I think the shape works better here, but layer's fine. Disc is 8-, works well, should have had a frame. And then claw. Cool. Because there's no awkwardness with this thing, I decided to put it slightly higher, but again, it's just a very standard remake. I don't have a problem with it, but there's nothing crazy with Flames of Deuteria. It just, yep, it's a remake that exists, and that I acknowledge that. Kind of finishing off this trio, number 8, Earth Eagle or Earth Aquila. I've always just grew up saying Earth Eagle, so I'm going to stick with that. Shape's fine, layer looks pretty good. This is the one that has 2. This has 2, fine choice. Yielding, I guess it's not a perfect wide defense replica, but that's fine. It works well enough. It does its job for what wide defense should do. Would have liked a frame, but yeah, nothing to say about this thing other than it's just kind of another fine remake. Why is this one above the other 2 though? Simply because I just like it more. That's all there really is to it. I've always just liked Earth Eagle a lot. It was one of my favorite bays from the first season, and honestly one of the few bays I actually did like from Season 1. By the way, I might eventually expand my Beyblade discussion videos to include some other gens. I might make a video on Metal Fight Season 1 and why I think it was terrible. Potentially. We'll see. Anyway, but yeah. One of my favorites from the season though, but yeah. Still pretty nice, but nothing crazy. Alright, now we get to number 7. Rounding off, I guess, the bottom half of the list with Burn Phoenix. The layer looks cool. I actually think this layer works really well, and I think, yeah, it looks the coolest of the bunch so far. Well, aside from maybe Hell Kerbix from a top-down view, but that's about it. Yell Wedge. Yell is a normal disc without a potential for a frame, so I can't complain about that, and also Wedge works fine here. This is kind of in contention for 7th with Earth Eagle, but because it has a disc that cannot support frames, they didn't have to put a frame on this thing, meaning that it works better in my opinion, because again, I think all core discs should have frames, and well, this isn't a core disc, so yeah, it works fine. Looks pretty cool, nothing crazy, but still nice. Alright, now we get to the middle of the list, the dead center of the list, number 6. This is the weirdest remake, because I don't have a reason for this being as low as it is, but it's Gravity Perseus. The layer, it looks very cool. This is also a Metal Fight Explosion remake, which means that it has the whole 2-part layer, and this is important with this one in particular because you can actually swap the modes between defense mode and counter mode. Also, it's LR. This thing's very cool. Also, it has 0-0 for the disc, or 00, whatever you want to call it, as well as bump, and then yielding, which works fine. Realistically, this should be significantly higher, like 4th minimum, if not further up than that. So why is it not? That's the thing. I genuinely have zero reason to why this thing's lower, other than that I don't know what it is, but something about this layer to me just feels a little bit off. It looks cool, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Is that just me, or does this layer just seem a little off in some way? Like a little bit too off. I don't know what it is about this bay to me that feels off, but compared to the other remakes, it probably feels the most off outside of maybe like Hell Kerbix, or arguably Rock Leone because of the rock wheel, but that one's a little bit more obvious. This one, yeah, I just don't know what it is. I still like this remake a lot, but because I do have something to complain about, even though I don't really know what it is, I'm putting it lower. Okay, now we get to the top 5. I like all of these a lot. So, that's good. So number 5, though, is Storm Pegasus. Classic. Layer looks good. Big fan of it. Also has 10 glaive. You got a frame on here, which is very nice. Also quick dash, works well. This is just a bay that I think is very solid and looks really good. It doesn't do anything crazy, but it's still just really, really nice, and I'm just a fan of that. And yes, they actually included a frame this time. Wonderful. A lot of the normal Metal Fight ones did not do this, so I'm glad that they finally did with at least one of them. I guess there is a second one that did as well, but we'll get to that in a second here. Actually, to the next one. Number 4, Lightning El Drago. This is my favorite of the original Metal Fight remakes. It looks really cool. I'm a big fan of this layer. The stickers look nice too. As far as the disc, they used 10 as well. And also Reach, works fine. Zephyr Dash, pretty cool. Again, this is just a really nice remake that works well. And it's above Pegasus mainly because I just generally like the bay itself more, even going back to Metal Fights. with the original versions. This was one of my favorite of the line in Season 1. One of the few that I like a lot, so... Yeah, no, it's really, really cool. Just looks nice, and that's all there is to say about it. Number 3. I don't know how this thing made it as high as it did, but it did. Rey Unicorno. Alright, Rey Unicorno, again, Metal Fight Explosion remake. Like the rest of them are, so they do have the 2-part layers, which is great. Layer looks really, really nice. I like this one a lot in particular. Always had one of my favorite face designs as well. Disc is 1-, sure. Also have Proof, which works very well to kind of relate to Defense 125. And of course, to relate to Coat Sharp, we have Unite Dash. This remake, I feel like, was just one of the best in terms of how they made it. Just because I think Proof and Unite Dash really worked well for Defense 125 and Coat Sharp. So this thing just looks really nice. It works really well. And just because everything combines well enough to where, yeah, I want to put this higher up than most of the others. So, yeah, it achieves that. Number 2, Galaxy Pegasus. Okay, come on. Galaxy Pegasus, whether it's the Burst remake or the original, it's just one of the coolest looking bays around. This always just had such a nice look to it. I really like the, kind of the clear face with the clear wheel of kind of a similar-ish color. The red, the blue metal wheel, I mean, it's plastic here, but whatever. It just looks really cool. 5, pretty solid disc choice. Glaive works well, and of course, Jolt Dash. Yes, this is technically the wrong way for the rubber, but we didn't have anything to really use in its place, and, I mean, who's really gonna notice? I mean, yeah, you can notice it for sure, but, like, at a glance, it's just kind of something you're probably not gonna think about right away. It still has a spiral pattern, so to me, you know what, it works fine. But overall, this remake just looks really good. And again, Glaive also can work well for, like, a Wing 105 track. So, looks really good. Again, it's just a remake that I think works really well, but also just has one of the best Beyblade designs I think I've seen in general, really. Just, man, Galaxy Pegasus always just was one of the best, so that's why it is ranking up as high as it is. Number 1, this is actually a very easy choice for me. Medio El Drago. Man, Medio El Drago, this thing is for sure one of my favorites from Metal Fight Explosion, from the original. That was why I had to kind of stop myself to say Hellcorix was my favorite, because this, as well as probably Flame Bixus, and maybe Gravity Perseus, like those 4 are all like right there with each other, but so yeah, it's one of my favorites, and I don't have complaints about it, so of course it's going to, rank the highest of any of those remakes. Well, I guess Bixus didn't get a remake, but, of Perseus and Kervix. I mean, it looks really cool. That's nice. 7, Vortex, I think works well. Vortex as well, I think, does a good job to kind of simulate Left Wing 105. You also have Spiral Dash to go, kind of replicate Left Flat, which, yeah, works very well. And again, this remake works really well, and it works really cool. But what I think really separates this to make it a very easy choice is the fact that, well, 2 things. First up, there is rubber, which, I mean, it's the only bay to do this. Like, I know it's like one of the very few bays in a Metal Fight to have rubber, but still, having it is very cool to see still. But also, being a Metal Fight Explosion remake has a 2-part layer. You can swap this between attack and absorb modes. So as the mode change as well. Get the mode change, the rubber, just the great design, and also the fact that they, did a good job on the remake itself. To me, this is a very easy number 1. I'm just a big fan of Medio El Drago. I'm glad to see they did it justice and included everything as well. It's just a really, really nice bay. This is definitely one of my favorites, so yeah, no, this thing's just great. So, with that said, this is my favorite remake, and that is the last, like I said, the last line I needed to do. I know I took a little bit of a break from kind of the series lines, but I finished DBMBU a while back, and I wanted to come back to do the last 2 for the remake lines, both of them, Plastic and Metal Gens, but yeah, we're done. So, after this, I will just be doing evolution lines. We still have quite a while to go with those, though, so still more rankings to come, but that is it for the actual lines of bays, though. So anyway, with that said, that's all for this video, so yeah, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.